Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. We're going to begin with our daily 11:30 briefing. Again, this is a briefing that we're giving the city on all things Corona and other important issues that might come up. And we'll continue this basically every day. We're trying to take a break on Sunday, but we'll just play that by ear next week. So we have a number of updates, as has been the case. So I'm going to begin in no particular order, but just remind everyone sort of the format for this. We're going to be doing updates from central New Mexico that come through our Joint Information Center. Then we're going to talk about some city service updates that are relevant for at least the time being. And then we're going to deep dive on a particular topic. We're going to be talking about the testing site behind me, the Presbyterian Balloon Fiesta testing site. And we're also going to talk a little bit about our open space and parks. So we're going to be featuring our Director of Parks and Rec, Dave Simon. Then we'll also touch on one particular way to help. We always like to do that. And we will also talk about one myth that we would like to debunk. So to begin with, first, this was announced yesterday, but we do want to reiterate it. APS has announced that they are working to open 20 school sites for child care services during regular business areas. Visit aps.edu for that. Again, a wonderful service if they're able to provide it during these times. That'll certainly help out a lot of folks who do have to work. So thank you, APS, for trying to make that work. Now, a couple of other items. Number one, at the city level, want to let folks know we are looking at scaling back our transit program. So again, we want to make sure we have paratransit and our senior transit program, which is very important, especially for medical appointments and even shopping. So some of this is very critical. We know that some of our routes, particularly Central, is still being used, again, for folks who don't have other means of transportation. So we are looking at how to still provide, again, these critical services to those in need, but also really maintain as much physical distancing as we can, and also protect our employees. So stay tuned in the next few days about a revised transit schedule and program. I also want to mention that our food pantries right now, I want to connect for a minute with folks, the connection between some runs on our stores, unfortunately some low-level issues around things like hoarding. This is very important, folks. Please just buy what you need as you normally would. There is no food shortage in America. We're actually fine on this front. But what's happening is, of course, people are buying more than they normally would, and the extras that food pantries usually get, which then go to those in need, are now less because people are buying more at the store than they normally would. So you're unfortunately indirectly affecting those who need it most. So again, just want to remind folks to do that. I know some states have had to go to some stricter regulations with respect to quantities of different things that you can buy. I don't think anyone wants to do that in Albuquerque or in the state, but we may have to. And so just want to ask folks to voluntarily please just buy what you need as you normally would. A few other items to touch on. Our childhood development centers, we have several around the city. These are located in very small buildings, and so we are now actually going through closing those starting tomorrow. There might be some minor exceptions for different folks, so we'll be releasing detailed information on that later. But again, that's really because they're actually really small classrooms. We don't have space to sort of spread out at this time. Again, that's a smaller, just a city-run program, the City Early Childhood Development Program. Other items to touch on too, we want to make sure that we are making preparations, and I think this one is probably the most top of mind for many residents in Albuquerque. We are making preparations for what it would mean to have a stay-at-home order. Now, I want to emphasize that we're preparing for this. We're not doing it right now. I also know that there may be some announcements from the state later today. We'll just see what they say, and we are in communication with them, and we will then update people on how the city is going to implement them. But regardless of that, we're just trying to prepare for what we're seeing happen all around the country. And so we will be ready if we need to use that tool. And again, we'll see what the state does this afternoon and what the city needs to do going forward. But we are going to be prepared to do a stay-at-home order if it's needed. And again, in any context like that, to remind folks, Generally, there are big exemptions for food, for, in many cases, things like exercise and also medical appointments. So I want to be clear, it is not something like a quarantine or a curfew. The stay-at-home orders, and we can answer questions on this, are different in that they certainly allow for people to do the kinds of things they need to do, and also, most importantly, to support those who do have to work. We know that not everyone has the luxury of staying home, and really what we're trying to do is support those who do have to work and take care of those who may get sick, and also keep our critical services running. Okay. I think in terms of general announcements, that covers most of our items. So what I'm now going to do is tee up our Director of Parks and Rec, which of course runs the Balloon Fiesta. That's one of a city park, technically, and facility. Today behind us, we have the second city partner testing site. The first one was, of course, out at our West Side shelter. And this is the second one in partnership with Presbyterian, and so far it's been going very smooth this morning. I believe a much better setup. I want to remind everyone that this is drive-through. This is, you stay in your car. That's very key to maintain physical distancing in that way. This is going to operate from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And our DMD security, again, some critical city workers there assisting with traffic and also 24-hour security here at the Balloon Fiesta Park. Want to thank everyone at the Balloon Fiesta staff who's there. Thank you so much for putting this together. Also want to thank Jason Downing, who's arranging all, of course, everyone's schedule daily. He's our manager of traffic services through our municipal development department. So with more on this and what's going on in our open space and so forth, the Director of Parks and Rec, Dave Simon. Dave?
Good morning, and thank you, Mayor. I think today's another terrific example of how fortunate we are to have an incredible, unique facility such as the Balloon Fiesta Park in our city. Today's capacity that we have to host on short notice such a critical feature for public health and safety, such as this testing location, again proves just what a fantastic asset, community asset we have here in Balloon Fiesta Park. So this testing site was stood up in about 72 hours, and it provides immense capacity to serve the public here with this important service, but do so in a way that really presents low, minimal impact on surrounding neighborhoods. So we're very grateful for the partnership with Presbyterian and our staff to get this testing site set up. And the Balloon Fiesta Park serves our community in so many ways that do such good things for Albuquerque and New Mexico. The ability to host the testing site here is just one new example of how vital and important this park can be to our community. I will say that parks in general are key. They're essential for our physical, mental, and spiritual health. And recreation is good for us. It helps us stay healthy, and in some cases may help to strengthen our immune systems as well. So we're quite fortunate to have a robust, exemplary park, open space, and trail system in Albuquerque. And at a time like this, it's providing vital outlets and beneficial services to the public. So the parks, city parks, trails, and open space are open, and we do have lots of open space, almost 30,000 acres of it. The key for utilizing our parks, trails, and open space at this challenging time really boils down to two words: separate and sanitize. So we have lots of space, but we want to remind families and parents that we must practice and recognize the social distancing protocols that have been ordered by the New Mexico Department of Health and by the CDC. Separate and sanitize. This, if we practice these two things, the parks will be here for us as outlets in a challenging time. We want to remind people to remain in small groups when they visit the parks and to maintain a minimum of 6 foot distance between groups and people when you're recreating in the parks and open space. The Parks and Recreation Department began implementing enhanced disinfecting protocols over 2 weeks ago in preparation for the onset of the situation. So we have enhanced protocol and cleaning processes in place in the parks right now. We're disinfecting playgrounds, benches, and tables regularly in the parks. But of course, the public, if they so choose, can help us with that. If the public wants to bring some wipes or disinfecting product or even soap and water to help keep the parks clean, those are all positive and helpful things to do if and when you choose to visit a park or open space or trail. We would encourage the public, however, to look for close-to-home recreation first. So explore your own backyard, too. Look for recreational opportunities around your home and your yard. But if needed, the parks are there for us right now. Again, I just want to remind people to separate and sanitize if and when they're visiting our parks, trails, and open space. Thank you.
Swap out over here. We're demonstrating distancing. All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Director Simon. Our way to help of the day is specifically tying in, we do have volunteer opportunities. Now, this is in the context of Corona. This is like volunteering in the time of Corona. And you can get those details, visit the CABQ website. And the website specifically is /ABQ Volunteers. But if you just type in volunteers, you're going to find volunteer opportunities. And what we're doing is we're building pools of volunteers with specialty skills. And so, especially if different needs arise. So folks who are already certified in food prep, we're also building pools of folks to do interpreting work and also to do trades and construction. And also medical training. So again, what we're doing now is we're getting specific skills that we know are going to be in need grouped so that we can sort of mobilize those folks as well. And we're also looking for folks who want to volunteer at home. We do have some ways to do that. So I want to encourage everyone on the website. And assuming we have some availability in the next few days at one of these briefings, we're going to highlight ways to volunteer, perhaps tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. Okay, our myth-busting piece today is around weather. I know there's a lot of folks who believe that once it gets hotter and more humid that this virus is going to go away. Or the reverse, when it snows, everyone's like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm not going to get into the science, but by and large in America, weather hasn't really done a whole lot. And so we know in general how this works, but I do want to just manage folks' expectations. Just because it's getting warmer out doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a whole lot of difference. We can hope for the best, but just want to remind folks that the correlation to weather isn't totally meaningful. So I think our last piece that I do want to touch on, just on a light note, you always highlight Tim's Takeout. It was Burger Boy in Tejeras, actually. Spent some time separated in the mountains and got takeout from Burger Boy. All right, so I think there's going to be a few questions, so let's go ahead and take those now.
Social distancing, I know you guys spoke on the importance of that with the open parks and what have you. We've gotten a few messages in terms of Walmart and stores that people are still not practicing social distancing. Or what about like dog parks? People walk their dogs quite often and it's often crowded. Are you guys still applying those same rules to that as well?
So the same rules certainly apply. We know at grocery stores I think people are kind of doing their best, but we can always work on this. It's just kind of now it's a personal hygiene thing, if you can try and remember. And, we're asking the stores, I know some stores have set up sort of queuing systems. I think Costco has done this, where there's demarcations every 6 feet in terms of where to stand. That's a great way to do it. If not, I went to the store last night because I got to do that too, and everyone's just kind of trying to stay 6 feet apart. So I think one, it's about making a personal effort, and two, if stores can, we're absolutely encouraging line demarcation, both going in if there's queuing on the way in, or if there's queuing in the lines. And I think people are trying to do the best they can, at least in my experience. People have been, by and large, very respectful and just trying to do what they can.
Okay, from Zoom, from Dyer at the Journal, what in your mind would necessitate a shelter-in-place order?
So I want to be clear about some of the vocabulary here, and also I will try and do what I forgot, which is to restate the question. The question is, what specifically are we working on in terms of shelter in place? So I want to be clear about, there's a lot of terms that we're all learning. Shelter in place is an active shooter term, so we are not looking at shelter in place. We are looking at a stay home order. I think we all kind of generally know what that is, but they're very different. And so for us, a stay home order would be similar to what other cities have done, which basically says that you are required to stay home unless you are providing a critical service with respect to work. Critical services are initially defined by FEMA, so reporters, if they want, can look at the list of what critical industries are there. And then also exempt are getting exercise and healthcare. And so those are all reasons why you can leave your house. I have talked to some folks in cities, including mayors who've done this, and the feeling they describe is the town feels like sort of a Sunday morning minus no churches. But it has that feel. There's very few businesses open, but some are, like takeout for food and grocery stores and other critical services. But it's very, very slow. And you see people come to parks, do their thing, and then head out. You see people walking, working with their dogs, but staying apart and then heading back to their house. So that's a feeling right now, I think, for about 1/6 of Americans, if I'm remembering that right from national news. And so we're preparing for that type of situation here in Albuquerque, again, with respect to keeping us all safe.
And with the design here at the Balloon Fiesta Park, when can we expect results? Because we know as of late it's been a backup with samples and everything.
Okay, so the question is a little bit about sort of the backup and testing and results and so forth. A couple of things, one thing we're trying to do in government is refer you to the correct organization to answer that question. That would definitely be the Department of Health or Presbyterian. We do know that at least right now, to get your testing, things have been running smooth, so that's a good thing, and that's really all it'd be appropriate for me specifically to speak to on that. All right, I think we're going to close for today, and just want to let folks know that I think this week, we're going to see an evolving situation here in New Mexico, as we've seen around the country, and we'll continue to update everyone at 11:30 each day. We're also doing digital town halls, and in fact, later today, we're doing our first over-the-phone town hall, and it has been very well received. We have tens of thousands of people at least who've signed up for that. So for many of you, I'll talk to you in just a little bit over the phone. Thank you so much.